Hello,
Hello?
my name is Tony Bridle and I'm from South Buckinghamshire, a little village called Hazelmere near High Wycombe in Bucks.
Lovely. So I have your questions that the children have set for you, and they're all about life as a child and in the Second World War and evacuees.
Yeah.
So the first question that they wanted to know is, what did you eat?
We used to eat quite well. My mother was a very good cook, but we went without a lots of things that you have now. If you had an egg, it was a real luxury, that sort of thing. My father was a good gardener. We had fresh produce nearly all year, but not all year, and because everything was on ration, so you had to stand in a queue at the shops with your ration book and your basket to see what they'd got. And when I was a little bit older, 3 and 4, I had to go to the shop across the road, stand in a queue with a note, the money, and my ration book to see what I could have. And that's how we ate. It was basic food, nothing fancy like it is today.
Perfect. So next question that they wanted to know is, did you make friends with the evacuees that came to stay with you?
Your family.
It's all right, isn't it?
You hear us?
Yes, be quiet. She can hear you.
Oh,
Right, sorry about that. Yes, I did make friends. We had an evacuee before I was born in 1939, but she went home before I was born and she lived in Acton. The next evacuee we had was my cousin Roy from Edmonton in London. He was with us till the end of the war, and I made friends with the evacuees across the road. Mrs. Bennett across the road had 3 sisters, all living in a house, and they being older than me, when I was old enough to go out, they used to take me for little walks up to the playing fields and things like that. But that was when I was about 3.
Lovely. So I've got the next question of, how long did your evacuee stay with you for?
Well, the first one only stopped about 4 months. She couldn't stand living in the country, so she went back to her mother and father in London at Acton. The other one, he stopped with us. He came, I should say, when I was about 1 or 2. Of course, I can't remember him coming, but he stopped with us till the end of the war, 1945.
So through the whole war. Okay, so how did you feel when they left? Were you happy when your cousin went back to London?
No, it wasn't, because he was my friend and he was the chap that's, well, he really kind of, what shall I say, educated me a lot about a lot of things. And he was about 7 or 8 years older than me, maybe more than that. I can't quite remember his age, but he was a real man about town. He knew lots of things and he knew how to, well, sort things out. And I learnt a lot from him.
That kind of leads into the next question about what were they like and how different they were from you being in the country and they living from London.
Mm.
So you said they were, very different. Would you be able to explain more about that?
Yeah, lots of things they couldn't get used to. For a start, of course, it was the blackout, but ours was really blackout. In the country, in that time in the 40s, they couldn't get used to seeing lots of birds and animals. Really, we lived very close to a farm where we used to go over to the farm. All the animals were there, and they'd never seen them. Living in London, they didn't see cows and sheep, any sort of animal. Chickens, they didn't see chickens. We used to keep chickens, some hens, for if we could get hold of them, but we very rarely did get them. But other people had hens. Of course, in them days, dogs used to roam about all over the place. They weren't kept in like they are now. that sort of thing. Really, to them, it was, it seemed like going back in time to the refugees, because they were so used to things in London being there, right there, you can have them. But here, like if you wanted milk, you had to go to the farm, take a bottle or take something to put the milk in, or if you hadn't got nothing, you'd go to the farmer, Mr. Tilbury, I can still remember his name, and he would produce you a bottle of milk with a cardboard top on top of the bottle, a little cardboard top, and it was a waxed cardboard top. And then I'd bring that home, I'd pay for it, and I'd walk home with it. And that was just near Haslemere Crossroads. There was a farm there then, and I used to do many things like that. We used to go over to the farm where the animals were to get straw sometimes, and he would sell you a sack of straw,
No.
that sort of
No.
thing.
Perfect. So the next question is, did you remain friends with your evacuee, your cousin, after the war, or did you ever see him?
Oh yes, yes. He, in them days, people used to visit each other quite a lot, more than they do now. Really, it was they'd come down by train all the way from London to High Wycombe, and then they would catch a bus from High Wycombe up to Haslemere, and we would meet them at the bus stop. And I kept in touch with Roy for years. One of the last times I saw him was in 1955, I think, when I was 15. He came to my sister's wedding at Haslemere. I saw him after that, but I can't remember what the date was, but I can remember that date because they came and stopped at our house. We all kind of moved rooms around and they stopped at our house.
Perfect. So your evacuee that came to stay with you, your cousin, did they go to a school near you while they lived with you?
Yes, they had to go to Haslemere School, like I had to go in 1945, but they went to school each day. And the evacuees across the road, they went to Haslemere School as well, which was just down the road and crossed the main road and into the school. Very convenient.
Nice and close. So I think
Yeah.
you part answered this next question, is that but they want to know about blacking out of windows. So did you
Yeah.
black out your windows, and what did you use?
We had jet black material and we used to pin it up all over the windows every evening. And every light must not show, because we had what we call the wardens walking round in them days. And if they could see a light shining out of any of your window or door, they'd come and bang on the wall, on the door, and they'd say, right, sort this light out now, straight away. And there was one incident where I went on the bus to Penn, because in those days there was no National Health Service. My mum and dad paid into what they call a club, the money. And we were standing at the bus stop at Penn, and somebody switched on some lights in a factory opposite where we were standing, and the warden was on them in no time at all, shouting and screaming at them, get them lights out, get them lights out. And he went over to this factory and banged on the door while we were stood at the bus stop, because we had to go to Penn to pay the club. It was called a money club, and you paid in each week. And that was, if you was ill, they would help you out with your wages while you was off work. And that's long before national service.
Love it. So this is the last question that I've got from one of the children. So did you have enough rooms for your cousin to come and stay, or did you have to all share?
No. Roy had to sleep in my bedroom with me. I had an elder sister who got the other bedroom, and mum and dad had theirs, and he slept in the same bed as me. The room wasn't big enough. It was what they call in them days a box room. It was the smallest bedroom, and that's what it used to be called, the box room. So he slept in the same bed as me, and that was a single bed. There was only room for chest of drawers and a single bed, and we both slept there together right till he went back in 1945.
Lovely. So that's all the questions that the children in Miss Murphy's class have for you today. So I'd like to say thank you on their behalf. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
If they want to know anything else about D-Day or anything like that, I'll be pleased to tell them. You know, I don't know how far they're going forward in the time, but in 1944, I stood on the drive in my house at Hazelmere watching all the planes and the gliders going over for D-Day on June the 6th, 1944. So I know all about that.
lovely. Thank you. Just a quick information. So D-Day is the British and Allies invasion of occupied France. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, and let them know.